Yours truly, the Texans have officially ruled out quarterback C.J. Stroud for Sunday's game against the Browns. So it'll be Case Keenum starting once more. Of course, he did lead them to an overtime win against, the former Oilers wearing those uniforms last week. Okay, meanwhile.
Got a lot of emotion in that one. She was salty.
I'm not salty at all. I'm very happy. How about Joe Flacco? He's going to be in the limelight this weekend. He continues his incredible comeback story. Signed to the Browns practice squad on November 20th. They finally signed him to a contract as well. Made his first start less than 2 weeks later. 3 games with the Browns. He's thrown for 939 yards, an average of 313 yards a game, 5th most passing yards by any quarterback in their first 3 games with the team in NFL history. It is insane to think that we have a 38-year-old Joe Flacco starting against a 35-year-old Case Keenum in a critical game down the stretch. What has made Joe Flacco so successful these last couple of weeks?
Well, to me, it's that Joe Flacco hasn't missed. When you look early in the season for the Cleveland Browns, even when Kevin Stefanski would dial up the right play, there seemed to be something off in the chemistry or connection between quarterback and wide receiver. We haven't seen that with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco has been dialed in, and if it's wide open, whether it's Njoku across the middle or Amari Cooper downfield, Elijah Moore, who his kids wants him to throw the football to from the New York Jets connection that they have, Joe Flacco has been right on point. And even in the game last week with 3 interceptions against the Chicago Bears, when it was time to make the critical throw, every time it was right on point.
Super Bowl MVP, guy's been around. Marcus?
Yeah. RC, I love it. I keep going back to Joe Flacco was in this league playing when we were, and we were all about matchups. And that David Njoku matchup that he's finding game in and game out, you see the emergence of that. That's just looking down the field and saying, my guy is more athletic. He's bigger than the guy that's covering him. And I just got here yesterday, and I feel comfortable with getting him the football, and he's going to make a play for me. And Joe Flacco has really leaned into that when you start to look at the production over the last couple games for David Njoku. And then the next thing that it does for your football team, remember, the Cleveland Browns are essentially and always wanted to be a physical run team. That's who they want their MO to be. I think Njoku brings some of that violence downfield, and that's why we're starting to see him get targeted a hell of a lot by Joe Flacco, and it's starting to turn into what this team can count on in critical situations, which I think is the most important thing when we start talking about pushing towards the playoffs.
Swag, this has been a journey for David Njoku and also his head coach, Kevin Stefanski. We got a chance to talk to him on the CW at Inside the NFL, and he said it didn't start this way between his head coach and him, but now both Njoku and Joe Flacco are the beneficiary of a relationship that has grown to be good.
Since Kevin initially came to Cleveland, we didn't always see eye to eye. It was actually the exact opposite in the year of 2020. We were not on the same page at all. And just seeing us grow together, he evolved from not hating, but, damn near hating each other to, just like the camaraderie we have, it's just night and day. It just all comes full circle. So we're really blessed that our relationship has grown in this way.
Yeah, that relationship growing is a huge part to why David Njoku is such a big piece of this offense with Joe Flacco. And if you go back to last game, he's actually calling a play late in that game saying, I want to get it to David. I know he can make the catch, and he can get a big run after, and that's how they got in field goal range.
Gave him the game ball. I went to Cleveland. I interviewed Njoku after his fire pit accident. 2 days later, he's playing in a division game. I mean, he can't even get his helmet on and off. Played in an insane amount of pain, and as his coach said to the rest of the team, this is what being a Cleveland Brown is all about. Just follow this guy's lead. So very cool story. Game picks, everybody, and predictably, I am the only one taking the Texans. You know what? And I'm going to ride with the Texans with Case Keenum. I'm going to go ahead and do that.
And you're probably going to be wrong, but you got to stick with your guns.
Yeah, I don't know. By the way, they have a 72% chance to make the playoffs if they win. RC. Okay, Trevor Lawrence was back on the practice field today. He still has to clear concussion protocol to play Sunday against the Bucs. Doug Peterson said if he's not cleared in time to travel tomorrow, he will not make the trip. And C.J. Beathard will make his first start since the final game of 2020 with the Niners. So, Mina, if Trevor can't go, how does that affect the Bucs' game plan on defense?
You could have watched football at any point over the last 10 years and known the answer to this question. It's Todd Bowles and a backup quarterback. He's going to blitz the heck out of him. That is what he does. And I think it would be effective against a Jaguars offense that struggled to move the ball even with their starter, but has a shaky offensive line. Now, if Trevor does play, it becomes a little bit different, obviously because of how quickly he gets rid of the ball and some of the throws he can make. And it becomes incumbent upon Tampa to tackle. It's so important against this Jags team that relies on short throws, getting the ball to ETN and Evan Ingram in space. Bringing them down is essential, of course, and it's something that the Bucs will have to do to pull off the win if Trevor starts.
Yeah, I'm going to live in the world where Trevor starts because he's never missed a game, okay? Right. And fingers crossed for them, playoff run. They have to start faster. The slow starts, as a team, and really as the performance for Trevor Lawrence is drastic. He is a significantly better player in the second half than he has been in the first half. One of the reasons why I think this team, and I've talked about this, MK and Hannah, they try to figure out who they are game to game early on. Sometimes it's the quick passing game. Yeah. Sometimes they're trying to get the ball to Calvin Ridley. Sometimes it's a little bit of their empty sets when they're trying to spread defenses out. I'll be very clear. For Jacksonville this game, I would throw the ball 45-plus times, 50 times. I think that's the way to attack this Tampa Bay defense. And I think the name that has to matter, maybe not the most important player in the game, but a guy that is going to have to play well, and specifically on outbreakers or corners. Parker Washington, Christian Kirk not there, he's hurt. Parker Washington, the rookie's had some good moments. That's how you throw against this Tampa secondary. From the slot, corner, and outbreaking routes.
As always, giving us something or someone to watch for. They've lost 4 or 6 since the bye, but if you look at our picks, Marcus, again, Swagoo going against the grain. Santa Swagoo thinks the Jacks will win. Why, Santa?
Because it's a desperation game, Hannah. Like, what you've seen the performance with this team over the past 2 weeks. I don't think there's a team probably more incentivized to get a W in the league right now than the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially when we were there for Monday Night Countdown, coming off a performance against the Cincinnati Bengals where they were starting a backup quarterback and they lost that game at home. So I just went with what I think the emotion will be and how they'll have to come and play this game to continue to have some success.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago they were playing for that #1 seed, and look what's happened. Meanwhile, the Bucs have played really well on this 3-game winning streak. What does all this mean for Mike Evans in fantasy this week? We're going to check in with AI-generated fantasy insights built with IBM Watson X. Facing the Jaguars, Evans has a high projection of 23.7 fantasy points, tied for 11th among wide receivers this week. His low projection of 10.5 is top 5 this week, so he is a low. Maybe go on the road and face the Lions. We would have Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff, and your head would explode, wouldn't it? Dan would just
be an emotional weekend.
Let's just hope that happens.
Dan, why would you be emotional?
Because I'm an emotional person, first of all. So, like, the team that drafted me, we're 0-16.
Because he's obsessed with everyone who ever played quarterback for the Lions or currently does. Anyway, Marcus, well, that's so true. What was your biggest takeaway from the game last night, from the Rams?
Yeah, I kept thinking yesterday's price is not today's when I watched the Rams last night, because you got to have all of your things paid for when you play them now with this run game with Kyren Williams. I saw the physicality, I saw the scheme, and obviously it's married together with what Sean McVay is doing. You get gap scheme, you get some simulation of a stretch game. You see the little toss pitch right here. And a lot of people are like, well, these are just runs up the middle, and this is not necessarily being physical. Well, one, you're making the defensive line try to determine what gaps and where to be. That's why you see so many guys hanging on the blocks from a scheme standpoint. And then when you start thinking about this scheme, you start thinking about how to play blocks. They get in the red area and they run it 3 times until they get in the end zone. So I looked at the Rams last night, and Matthew Stafford was phenomenal. We saw Puka Nacua go off, obviously making all of those throws. This run game is why the Los Angeles Rams are a dangerous team to get into the playoffs, and it's very similar to what the Bills are doing right now with how they're resurging.
Swag, think back to when Jared Goff made his ascension in L.A. with the arrival of Sean McVay. It started with Todd Gurley. And from Todd Gurley, it went into the play-action game. And now that you have Matthew Stafford and he can make every single throw, use the entire width of the field, push the football deep, they They find ways to attack you at every different level of the field, whether it's short crossers, the intermediate routes. He can get you to the outside. We can hit you in the deep part of the field. So they've now taken this play action and added to it a supreme arm talent in Matthew Stafford. There is so much pressure put on the second level of every single defense. Yeah. One, because of what Kyron Williams could do. Number two, because of Sean McVay's scheme and the way that he dials things up. But the fact that Matthew Stafford is not missing a beat when it is open, he is hitting it, and he can throw the football to corners of the field. Most quarterbacks cannot.
No, that's well said. I think Sean McVay has clearly put himself into the top 3 Coach of the Year candidates. Yep. Sean McVay, Shane Steichen, and probably D'Amico Ryans right up there.
Definitely.
Kevin Stefanski. Let's have an honest conversation about the Rams. Is there an offensive line in the NFC playing better than that group right now? Both in the run and the pass game.
They aren't.
This offensive line, I don't know what happened over this last month and a half, but in both the run game that Marcus constantly reminds us about and the pass game, this group is playing spectacular. And if we're being candid about the teams in the NFC playoffs right now, I don't know if there's an offensive line that I think is playing better top to bottom than them. Detroit's had some weakness here recently. San Francisco's a good unit, not great. Philadelphia is not who they were.
Also, too, though, to what Marcus is saying about Kyron Williams, how much does having a running back that you know is going to hit everything downhill, is going to be in the right spot, help you in run blocking? And then we know once you get rolling run blocking, you become a better pass blocking team.
And our team travels really well as well.
And I would say them, San Francisco and Detroit right now are 1, 2, 3. When they run the ball, it's all 11.
Right.
There's not 9 guys in the run game. It's all 11. I think that offensive line is probably one of the most reliable units in the NFC left.
Yeah, and I mean, he has done a great job rebuilding that team in a lot of ways, too. And here they are super dangerous. Meanwhile, on the other side, after the loss, veteran defensive end and team captain Cam Jordan, he always gives it straight. Saints are 7-8 or 7-9. You know Cam, you know that's true. He says we are who we are. There's 2 games left. There's no sugarcoating this, fill in the blank. It's frustrating to be in this position. I'm not sure the probabilities of where it is now. We just have to win out. At the end of the day, there's no excuses. We just have to win out. So, Mina, I'll give you the ESPN analytics. They give the Saints a 24% chance to make the playoffs, 9th in the NFC. What do you think their Achilles heel has been this season?
Everybody gets to talk about the Rams, and I feel like the Grinch talking about the Saints.
Sorry,
womp,
Mina.
womp, Saints.
The Grinch.
It was a tough night for the defense. I thought the defensive line got pushed around, but for me, the offense has been the biggest disappointment this year, and I think it's pretty simple what the biggest issue is. As Ryan said at the top, Derek Carr can still throw the ball. You saw that on the bomb to Shaheed. The problem is he can't throw the ball when he's pressured, or he won't throw the ball when he's pressured, and he's playing behind a struggling offensive line. You saw that on display against the Rams defense. That is feisty and fun, but they're not the dominant pass rush unit they look like in this particular game against the Saints offensive line. It's just a bad formula with the quarterback and the offensive line playing together right now, and they can't get much going on offense as a result.
Yeah, they finished against the Bucks, the Falcons, couple division games. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Mina.
Xin chào các bạn, trên tay mình đây là 20 kg và tạ 20 kg. Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn tô bức tranh này sao cho đẹp nhất. Trong quá trình mình tô màu bức tranh này, nếu các bạn thấy đẹp và hay, hãy cho mình một lượt like để ủng hộ mình. Mình cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều.
Đầu tiên mình sẽ đi tìm màu để mình tô cho sản phẩm của mình các bạn ạ. Mình chọn màu nào thích hợp với cả bức tranh của mình các bạn nha. Hãy theo dõi mình đi tô tranh, tô sản phẩm của mình sẽ tô đẹp nhất cho các bạn xem. Các bạn hãy theo dõi mình. Cảm ơn các bạn. Còn người ta yêu thì vội vàng cách xa. K2 à anh Việt?
Hả?
Làm K2 à?
Hai.
Rồi.
Thế sao mình vậy?
Nhưng mà mình em rồi.
Bọn kia đó đi học à?
Hết việc rồi. Đủ video rồi.
Đủ số lượng khá lắm. Cái tổng quyết
Tháng này nó không cần nhiều, Quyết nó đi quay về lâu.
quê ở đâu?
Đường Đồng Vọng rồi. Đi mi thành còi này.
Thế
Đi dựng nhà bên ấy để làm về lâu.
chỗ nào nhỉ?
Cái chỗ cái đầm bên ấy, đầm ở đường Đồng Vọng đấy.
Tôi đâm nhà về đi số 3 đấy.
Đi mua tre trước để dựng nhà mà.
Quê sao làm video á?
Sau cái làm lồng chạy bên ấy thôi. Vậy là sản phẩm tô màu của mình đã xong các bạn ạ. Các bạn thấy đẹp đấy, cho mình xin lượt like, lượt đăng ký kênh. Cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều.
Xin chào các bạn, trên tay mình đây là mèo con. Hôm nay mình sẽ dẫn các bạn tô bức tranh này sao cho đẹp nhất. Trong quá trình mình tô màu bức tranh này, nếu các bạn thấy đẹp và hay, hãy cho mình một lượt like. Mình cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều.
Yên đâu?
Trên nhà đang ngủ. Đầu tiên mình sẽ đi chọn màu để tô cho sản phẩm mình các bạn ạ. Các bạn hãy theo dõi quá trình mình đi tô màu nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều.
Trời ơi, 9.000. Thử nha. 9.000. Em
Triệu rồi, triệu.
lấy rẻ.
Hả?
Lấy rẻ 9.000 thôi.
Đâu phải triệu rồi, để lấy đến Tết trả lấy tiền đi lại đi bạn. Không, bây giờ mày lấy tiền xong mày đéo nói chuyện với anh nữa à? Mày nói chơi với anh nữa, đéo à?
Chết.
Hôm nào thì được. Đậu mấy hôm? Hả? Đậu mấy hôm thì được.
Cái em mua tí nữa hôm nữa.
Cái này
2 hôm nữa.
2 hôm nữa.
Là nhanh nhất.
Đéo lúc đấy thì là đéo cẩn nữa rồi. Có thằng thời vụ nào không?
Làm nghe nhạc, tập trung vào làm đi được. Ngồi tivi người tự
Ấy sản phẩm của anh đấy đừng để lộ.
Trời em nó ném tung đầu em.
Và đúng kìa. Không đi que à?
Rồi em làm khác.
Quyết đang đi que đấy. Gọi đọc có gọi là giỏi rồi, chạy được cái nước non chó rồi. Em bạn có người yêu 100 mà.
Em tải
Anh mà là con bé đấy, anh cứ thôi là chạy được cái nước non rồi đòi yêu người ta.
em có cái tỉnh đâu mà mình phải yêu người ta.
Thỉnh thoảng lại đang ngáo lên như mà chơi đậu sao.
Nhỉ?
Để nói vậy.
Nói cuối.
Cái này là tức là em gắn kẽ lắm, kiểu nó cứ bị lệch lệch đấy rồi.
Gắn
Này chỉ
không
có cái mới mua này nó còn dễ rồi, chứ cái này sút.
Mà hút rồi.
Mình sẽ tô màu đen vào đây cho các bạn nhé.
ngáo quá luôn.
Cà rốt có một phần nó bị hơi thối rồi. Tô màu đen.
Ngáo vậy.
Đã đặt cái chân rồi cực.
Cực.
Buồn.
Cái gì đây? Hộp sữa rồi lấy cái nào?
Hộp sữa rồi ở dưới bỏ đi.
Mẹ.
Ui giời ơi bố ơi, kéo rầy.
Ở đây nhiều hay là em tưởng
Nhiều cái đây hết sản phẩm rồi, ra không có sản phẩm để tô màu đây.
Đây.
anh cần
Tô lại cái tranh mình biết
Tìm
à?
mấy sản phẩm kia ghét bắn rồi.
Cái video mình đến đây là xong rồi các bạn nhé.
Các bạn thì cho mình xin đăng ký kênh, cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều. Tạm biệt các bạn.
Chào Vũ đâu, từ từ.
ừ